This show is called The Last Night, and today my dad is talking about how England beat India. I don't know how they did it, as I was doing my homeschooling when it happened. Although I was also playing Minecraft when I shouldn't have been. My sister can't even play Minecraft. Good.
That's a pretty decent upset, right? I mean, it's no Indian netballers beating Australia at the Gabba, or West Indies chasing whatever they did against Bangladesh with a bloke who's never batted before. But it's a pretty big upset. And yes, I am aware that Ravi Jadeja had a very poor game. Not one run or wicket. He might as well have not played at all. And it's not that no one gave England a chance. I mean, they had dispatched a pretty poor Sri Lankan team at home, and they seemed slightly better prepared for an Indian team that was still in triage, nursing many injuries and probably an Australian hangover. But Leach and Bess aren't exactly Swan and Panesar, are they? And England were rotating their players so much that it was actually hard to remember who was playing in this game. I mean, I would say that the England team is coming together nicely, but I'm not actually sure who all the players are who are available at any time for any England team. And the England team isn't perfect, it's still quite flawed and coming together itself. And they were going up against an Indian team who just beat a full-strength Australian team at home with work experience players and gaffer tape. So you would have expected India at worst to be fairly close to England in this game. And come to think of it, maybe the win is not quite as surprising as the result. There is winning, and there is 227 runs away from home. And it's not like the Indians completely fell apart. They continued to fight, and they put in good individual performances, just not all the way through. Pujara's first innings was class, and Ashwin's second innings was fun, and Pant did Pant things. And India were a long way behind in this. So I think that we have to talk about the biggest factor. Well, not the biggest factor. England being better than India in this game is the biggest factor. But the toss. We talk about the toss in cricket more than boys in boarding school do. Sorry. As a general rule, if you start a match report with news about the toss, you've probably gone horribly wrong. But I think in this case, it certainly needs to be mentioned because it had a pretty big impact on the overall game. I mean, India probably got their spinners wrong with selection, but had they bowled in the second innings with 500 runs on the board, we may not have felt that way as much. But to be very, very fair to England, when you win the toss in India, they don't gift you 578 runs. You have to actually go out and make them. And one of the people that was really important was Dom Sibley. I mean, Sibley's so underrated that he'll probably be airbrushed out of his own wedding photos. He's slow and obdurate, and I think those mean the same thing, more or less, but it's like his front leg and his back leg don't even communicate with each other. He's a grinder. And I'm still not 100% convinced that he's great when the ball is spinning away from him, but he certainly did a very important thing on day one, even if he went out, just before the party started. But as good as Sibley was, he's quite clearly not Joe Root. It turns out that there are very few people out there like Joe Root. In fact, even Joe Root was absolutely nothing like Joe Root for the longest time. Joe Root, for the longest time, he's been like half a Root. And no one wants half a Root. Who wants to scream in pleasure after a premature dismissal just short of 100? But as you would expect from a batsman who usually fails by only scoring 50 regularly, he was bound to work out batting again. And now he's gone all nuclear with it and decided to score all of his runs in like one big go. And if you want to know more about his recent batting, I just made a video about it. But basically, what was special about this innings was how he went away from the sweep shot and changed his game slightly because of the different conditions and the different bowlers. This wasn't sweep by numbers Joe Root. There was a real art to what he's doing right now, and all the parts of his game are coming together beautifully. And I don't know how long this will last, but this is the best I have seen Joe Root bat, and listening to his teammates, they seem to think it's the best he has batted, and he seems to think it is the best he has batted. And being that Joe Root has averaged 50 for 100 tests, his best is pretty ridiculous, even if he still feels like he's about 12 years old and has just stolen a sweet from the next door neighbours. Real time here. I actually once saw Joe Root steal a sweet, and he thought there was no one in the press box, and he saw some sweets. And he sort of crept in, and I was the only one left in the press box. And as he got the sweet, he made a noise, and he looked around, and he saw me looking at him, and then just sort of backed away slowly with the sweet in his hand. The great thing about this Joe Root innings is that another inning happened in this match from another great batsman that we could kind of compare it to. Kohli's fourth inning score wasn't massive, and it didn't change the game as the game was already gone. He's played tougher innings and bigger innings and blah, 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 blah. But as far as being in batting perfection, Kohli was as close to it as kind of anyone gets to. On a fourth day pitch that was crumbling far quicker than his teammates were, to be fair, he played a near flawless innings. And by that I mean he basically didn't make a mistake. And batsmen generally make mistakes, even when they're not going out. Virat Kohli faced 104 balls and he made less than 4 errors in that time. He made less errors than an Air Force general piloting one of those plane thingies that they do. Sure, by the time he got going, the game was pretty much gone. But I'm talking about just the ability to bat on that pitch without making any mistakes while scoring all the time. It's basically unheard of to do it normally, let alone a fourth day pitch. It may be the most flawless and the most pointless innings of his career. And I bet he wished he'd done it in the first innings. Of course, it all started poorly in the first innings when Jofra struck and then Dom Bess followed up. And it was from there India's match to lose. Bess is worth talking about just because his recent form involves an amazing amount of pull balls and an amazing amount of test wickets. I don't think I've ever seen a test finger spinner to have perfected the full toss wicket combination quite like him. The Pujara moment might be the most Deus Ex Machina moment of this test. Maybe it might end up being of the series. Maybe Pujara would still be batting now if he hadn't really found a strong-spined Ollie Pope to pull the ball into. We can't be sure. Some people will say it is better to be lucky than be good. I reckon Dom Bess would like to be both, but he's still young and getting better. But he's clearly not the finished article. And talking about articles and finished and all those sorts of things, I think the real story from this test was probably Rishabh Pant versus Jack Leach. Leach has had such a odd career. Bred on the raging Turners of Somerset, he started his career quite well, won 2 games with the bat, and turned himself into a cult figure. And then he played 1 bad test, got really sick, and was a permanent 13th man in various bubbles. Finally, he gets his chance in Sri Lanka, and the local batsmen are lining up to make Dom Bess look better than him. And also, for all of this, Jack Leach still can't bowl to left-handers. And one of the most left-handed batsmen in the world is Rishabh Pant. 6 overs for 59 runs. And even though he almost had him twice, that's a hard thing to explain to your bowling figures. Pant was brilliant, and he and Pujara batted so well in that innings. And I can't get past the fact that Pujara played a perfect pull shot and still went out. Pant kept attacking, and unfortunately for him, he attacked a spinner out of the footmarks and was caught in the deep. But that was how he was batting. The narrative, of course, will be about Leach's courageous comeback after his shabby English treatment, followed by his pantsing. But it's also worth noting that he basically did what he kind of always does. He bowled really, really well against right-handers and bowled really, really poorly against left-handers. It's just that this was a bit more dramatic. There was another left-hander that Leach bowled to and failed to dismiss, who is fast becoming something special, but not really what he was supposed to be. Washington Sundar, he was supposed to be an IPL player and a white ball player. And then when he was picked to play in the test team, he was supposed to be the 5th spinner and handy with the bat. At the moment, he seems like a specialist number 7 and part-time bowler, and maybe that's all that he needs to be. I don't know how India drop him from here, but I also don't know how they get to bowl him that much. He basically bowls very high arm action off spin, like Ashwin does. And England don't have that many left-handers in their top 8. Of course, this is a wonderful problem for India to have. Oh no, Washington Sundar is playing too well. And he is an incredible story. A white ball player with more than 1,000 days without a first-class game, who is now just being brilliant in Test cricket. And talking about undroppable, there is a very, very big chance that in the next Test match, Washington Sundar plays and Jimmy Anderson does not. Such is the peculiarities of modern cricket. The T20 bloke who doesn't even play first-class cricket will get 3 straight tests, and the seamer with the most wickets ever by a seam bowler in Test cricket will be rested. That's just the world that we live in now. Jimmy Clouderson, as some people still like to call him, seems to be like one of Melbourne's greatest ever bands, Crowded House, that he always takes the weather with him. In the last 10 years, he is like Olaf from Frozen, travelling with his own personal slurry. The seam bowling Batman, as I made a video, you can go look at that too, James Anderson Batman. I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere. But even though I made the video, somehow everyone in the world has not yet watched that video, and people are still going on about the fact that he isn't very good away from home. And people are quite often moaning about the fact that he's not very good away from home at the very time that he seems to be taking wickets away from home. He's much better now. He's just much better. He's much better everywhere. He must be as sick of hearing about how bad he is at home as batsmen are of playing him. And as far as being dropped or rotated or rested or player management did, he told us on TalkSport that he wants to play in the next test too.
You don't even look comfortable in your own ends. Don't look comfortable. I'm around.
But England management want to squeeze every inch of pus out of their most wicket-taking pimple. Most of the seamers in this match had good moments. It's just that, as Jimmy has seemed to have done over the last 4 or 5 years, his moments were just betterer. And so we find ourselves in a situation where for the next test, England might make more changes than India do. Joss Butler's already on a plane. Don't know why I pointed up there. He's not up there yet. But let's just focus on the fact that this is huge for England. They weren't expected to win this game. Even of those people who thought they might win, no one expected them to win like that. This is a big win away from home. India has been absolutely brilliant at home, and they're usually absolutely brilliant in Chennai as well. So for England to play as well as they did and blitz India, it is just a huge, huge thing. This is a win that will stay with England for a very, very long time. Although, again, such is modern cricket, it will actually only last for about 3 days' time, and then they'll have to play again, because that's how we do things. Not Jimmy. Washington Sunday will play.